Why do we want peace? From my experience, the answer lies with the word existence. And it makes me think of a story about existential crises. I met one of my neighbors about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and we were in the same middle school. So, like, and even I think before that, maybe, no, same middle school. And so we knew each other. And like sometimes we meet each other in the elevator and we kind of say how's it going, and we do like a check of each other's life real quick. And this time she told me she had finished her studies, because I think she went the whole full 5 year route, right? A master's degree, all that stuff. But she still felt lost. I think she did AI or graphic design, I don't remember. But what I remember is she told me that she was having an existential crisis. She basically didn't know what she wanted to do. She didn't know where to go with her life. So I asked her, like, okay, what do you like to do? She told me, I don't know, I like writing. No. And I told, like, yeah, that's something interesting to do. Just do that. Maybe, I don't know, share what you're learning, or share, your insights about writing on the internet or whatever it is. And sometimes people are going to want to tune into that or even learn from that. You don't need to be an expert to help people who are more beginner than you. Now, whether that's a good advice or not doesn't matter, because this story then made me think of my own existential crisis that I had a few years ago. The way it happened was either I was struggling to get to sleep, or I had woken up at like 3 a.m. and started thinking. And it wasn't a long existential crisis, but it was very intense, because I ended up bawling my eyes out, genuinely out loud, asking myself, what the fuck am I doing here? Why do I even exist? And at that particular point, I understood what people who end themselves feel like. At that particular point, I felt so empty in the wrong way that I genuinely thought that there would be no point in continuing. Now, of course, I didn't do anything crazy, because it was just like an instant moment, right? And I was already old enough to know there are better things to come. But this feeling of uselessness came from something that we all have, which is this constant quest for purpose that society has been giving us, right? Either you're supposed to provide for your family, or you're supposed to find something that, advances society, or you're just supposed to have a sport or an art that you're really good at, or a skill, right? That makes you better than others, basically. That makes you mark people's minds. And that this thing that makes us, quote unquote, better than others should give meaning to our life. So I searched and I searched and I searched again and again and again and again about what was my purpose. And so I found a bunch of different purposes. But the one that really stuck with me was just the fact that I was curious. I just liked exploring things. I liked looking for the truth. And at the time, I didn't know how much meaning this had, and how much purpose was actually something devastating. Because this whole exploring the truth thing wasn't really my purpose, but you'll see later. What I want to say about the quest for purpose is that as long as you believe you need to have meaning in your life, that life needs to have a goal, needs to have a direction, you'll feel suffering. Because as long as you have not achieved this goal, or you're not in the right direction that you're supposed to be in, at least that you believe you're supposed to be in, you'll feel suffering, because you'll feel the dissonance between what you want and what you are actually doing, or what you actually are. Now, what is the solution to that? Because you might be asking yourself, like, yeah, but if I don't have a purpose, what am I supposed to do? Simple. Start enjoying your existence for the fun of it. Simply be the experience. And the whole part I just told you about the fact that I was curious and I just wanted to explore, and how it wasn't actually my purpose. I said that because it's not a purpose. It's the whole point of life. When I said be the experience, when I said enjoy existence for the fun of it, that's what it is. It's just explore the truth. Explore what is true about reality. Be an adventurer. You don't need to have one set path. Just enjoy the whole thing. Even pain is only vibration. Even frustration is only part of the experience. There is a big difference between pain and suffering, or between pain and frustration. Between suffering and frustration. Suffering only happens when you identify with pain, or when you identify with the experience. When you believe your thoughts are your own. When you believe that the frustration you're feeling is you. That's when suffering happens. That's why purpose is not the right way of going about it. Because when you believe a purpose is your own, then the feeling of frustration that happens when you don't have the purpose yet becomes your own as well. Now, I'm one of those guys where it's cool to talk about spirituality and happiness and all that stuff, but I need to have a practice, right? Because even though long-term you won't need a practice anymore, it's good to have one at first so that you form a new habit of thinking, a new habit of belief, a new habit of the way you see reality. Because I've just told you all this, but it doesn't mean that in day-to-day life, you will be able to just remember it and to feel it that way, right? So here's my advice. You're going to do something that I called a focused input window. It started off as something called the no input window, which was basically to just lay there and just not do anything, not react to anything. Just do not move your body and let your mind run wild. Just let it run wild, let it tire itself out until there is silence. But the way to make this better so that you can integrate it into daily life is to, instead of not focusing on anything, focus on one sense, whether it's your ears, whether it's your touch, whether it's your breath, right? A bunch of different things, right? And you start noticing it without the concepts around it. So for example, if you're listening to sounds, if you're in a quiet room, you might start hearing a ringing in your ear, right? It's just you perceiving slight frequencies, I think, that shouldn't be hearable otherwise, but are hearable when there's nothing around. Instead of having your whole mind going around and telling yourself, yeah, that's just the sound of this doing that and so on and so on and so on, you start listening to it without all the words we've assigned to it. Because truth be told, this is not a sound. This is just, you cannot say this is the sound of a gong. You know what I mean? Because the sound of a gong is the sound of a gong. That's what it is. It's a bunch of words, a bunch of symbols that we have coded to make a sound that allows us to communicate. But this is not the word that represents it. This is simply what you're hearing. I don't know if you're even hearing it in the mic. I hope so. So you focus by doing this. You can also do it while listening to something, right? You actually have a sound around you with, I don't know, like a constant theta waves or whatever, calming sound around you. And you just focus on the sound and you let it be without it having any meaning. And little by little, you switch up between the senses. You go from sound to touch to, again, breath. I know breath isn't really a sense as a whole, but it's important nonetheless. Of course, with breath, you want to try and not control it. You just look at it without any concepts again. I would say the hardest sense to do this with is obviously sight, because there's a lot of movement and we consider this as reality. But the whole point of this thing is to, little by little, see reality not as this bunch of concepts, but instead as just what it is. It's a here and now. It's pure experience. The only way to have pure experience is to become infinite. And to become infinite, you need to be here and now. The only way to not be bound by time is to only exist in a tiny fraction. And this tiny fraction is here and now. It's the thing that takes us away from space and time. Obviously, you can do all this with your thoughts as well, eventually. And if thoughts do creep in during this focused input window while you're focusing on a sound or whatever, you can just let it be. You don't need to try and erase it. You do the same thing. You let the thought be a sound. And by practicing this, little by little, you're going to start actually enjoying your existence, actually enjoying experience without trying to put any meaning to it. You're just enjoying it. Just like I'm doing this YouTube video, just like I like playing League of Legends, I like working out, I like going to work. I don't put too much meaning into any of this. I like making plans, but they're not for a specific purpose. They're just to enjoy myself. Now, you know how to silence your mind and experience reality without any concepts. But you still don't know the most likely reason why this whole reality works this way and why the feeling of pure experience feels so good. So if you want to know about the most credible truth to our existence, watch this right now. And don't forget, work on the inside and the outside will follow. Take care, man. Ciao.